Is he back on the clock now?
I want to see that deal end. It's very serious what I have in mind if I have to do it, but I want to see it end. I think that in many ways he's there. Sometimes he'll be there and Zelensky won't be there. You know, it's like, who do we have today? I got to get them both at the same time. But I want to have it end. We have economic sanctions. I'm talking about economic, because we're not going to get into a world war. I'll tell you what, in my opinion, if I didn't win this race, Ukraine could have ended up in a world war. We're not going to end up in a world war anymore, but it would have ended up possibly in a world war. That would have been they were ready to trot. But just like India and Pakistan, we're going to end up in a nuclear war if I didn't stop them. You know, it's sort of strange. I saw they were fighting. Then I saw 7 jets were shot down. I said, that's not good. That's a lot of jets, you know. $150 million planes were shot down. A lot of them, 7, maybe more than that. They didn't even report the real number. I'm talking to a very terrific man, Modi of India. And they say, what's going on with you in Pakistan? Then I'm talking to Pakistan on trade. I said, what's going on with you in India? And the hatred was tremendous. Now, this has been going on for a hell of a long time, like sometimes with different names for hundreds of years. But I said, what's going on? I said, I don't want to make a trade deal. No, we want to make a trade deal. I said, no, I don't want to make a trade deal with you. You're going to have a nuclear war. You guys are going to end up in a nuclear war. And that was very important to them. I said, call me back tomorrow, but we're not going to do any deals with you, or we're going to put tariffs on you that are so high. You were there, Howard, right? Yeah. You're going to put tariffs on you that was so high, I don't give a damn. Your head's going to spin. Like, you're not going to end up in a war. Within about 5 hours, it was done. It was done. Now, maybe it starts again. I don't know. I don't think so, but I'll stop it if it does. We can't let these things happen. The Russia-Ukraine situation, last week, 7,012 soldiers, 7,012 soldiers died. They were Russian, they were Ukrainian, they weren't American, so a lot of people would say, what do you care? They're not American. I care. They're 12,000, over the last couple of weeks, over 12,000 people died in like in 2 weeks. You know, we're talking about crime where somebody's killed here or somebody. Think of it, you have your son leaving Russia, leaving Ukraine, their little house, wherever they live with their parents, they're waving goodbye, just like our parents would wave goodbye. And they're waving goodbye, son. And then a week later, his head's blown off in a stupid war by a drone, a whole new form of military problem. So, no, I'd like it to stop. I want to get it to stop. And it will not be a world war, but it will be an economic war. And an economic war is going to be bad. And it's going to be bad for Russia, and I don't want that. Now, I have to also see, because not everybody, you know, Zelensky is not exactly innocent either, okay? You know, it takes 2 people to tango. And I say it all the time. You got to get them together. I get along with Zelensky now, but we have a much different relationship, because now we're not paying any money to Ukraine. You know, stop that. We're paying money to ourselves. What's happening is NATO is buying all of the equipment and paying in full. But even with that, forget about that. I want to get it stopped, because it's a lot of lives that are being lost. Every week it's 7,000, 5,000, 6,000. I get the reports, and I see battlefields. I'd rather not see them. And you know, you read about Gettysburg. You read about Gettysburg, and you see, you know, those 600,000 people. But in that war in particular was really bad, like 150,000 or something, just dead body. I'm seeing the same. I see pictures. I see satellite pictures of heads over here, arms over here, legs over here. And this is like a modern age. It's no different than the worst wars that I've ever seen. And if I can stop it because I have a certain power or a certain relationship. I had a very good relationship with President Putin. Very, very good. That's a positive thing again. And I think I'm probably the only, Steve Witkoff would tell you I'm the only one that can solve it. I don't know. He's told me that a few times, unless he was saying that just to build up my ego, but it's not really. I have no ego when it comes to this stuff. I just want to see it stop. Thousands of young people, mostly young people, are dying every single week. If I can save that by doing sanctions or by just being me, or by using a very strong tariff system that's very costly to Russia or Ukraine or whoever we have, But I stopped 7 wars, and 3 of those wars were going on for more than 30 years. If you look at Congo, if you look at just look at any of them, almost all of them were going on for an extended period of time. Now, interestingly, one had just started. It was 2 days old, and you know that one. And we did that one when we were in Scotland negotiating. It was 2 days up, but there were 2,000 dead bodies laying on the border, and I got that one stopped too. And I'm very honored by that, but the one that I thought would be the easiest is turning out to be the hardest. That's President Putin and President Zelensky, but I think I'll get it done.
Why do you think it's harder?
You never know. It's war.
Can you stop the family?
With war, you never know, right? War's very tricky, very horrible, but with war, you never know. Things change. People go into war, think they're going to win the war, and then they get their asses kicked, and they lose their country, and they lose millions of lives. Nobody goes into a war thinking they're going to lose. They go in. I'm sure that Ukraine thought they were going to win. It's going to be, we're going to win. You're going to beat somebody that's 15 times your size. Biden shouldn't have let that happen. Biden shouldn't have. I mean, the man was grossly incompetent. He should have never been there. That would have never happened. But you don't go into a war that's 15 times your size.
Say it.
Fed just put out a statement saying that Lisa Cook has indicated through a personal attorney that she'll promptly challenge this action in court, seek a judicial decision that would confirm her ability to continue.
That's all right, whatever it is.
It says the Fed will abide by any court decision.
Thank you very much for reading
abide
that.
by a court decision.
I abide by the court, yeah. I abide by the court. Yes, please. That's enough. That's enough.
Mr.
Go ahead.
Vanity Fair, what other companies are you thinking about taking stake in?
Well, we didn't take a stake in the sense that it was reported. Everyone said, I bought a stake in Intel. No, I got it for free. I said I was with is that correct statement? Howard was there.
Absolutely correct.
Scott knew all about it. They came in, a man was charged with something by a very good person, Senator Cotton, made some statements about the gentleman that was running Intel. When he came in, and I said some rough things about him, I said, I'm not happy with it, and they called, and he was very devastated at what I said. I said he should immediately resign. And he came to see me, and I was very impressed by him, actually. And he made a mistake, or factors happened where something like this could have taken place. In the meantime, his board was staying by him. And I said to him, and took about, I would say, less than 45 seconds. I said, you know what you should do if you're smart? Give the United States of America 10% of your company. And he looked at me and he said, I'll do that. I said, I just made $11 billion for the United States. And we made the deal. I didn't pay, we didn't write a check. Now, I guess Biden, with his stupid CHIPS Act, handed money to all these people that didn't need any money. Exactly. It didn't do anything. They're giving billions of dollars to everybody. They all have so much money, and they have more money. But there's no commitment that you had to build. They just took all this money. It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. See, with tariffs, they have to come in, because if they don't come in, they can't sell into our country. So it's power, and you don't have to give up any money. But I said to him very simply, I'm glad we're straightening this out, because everyone thinks I bought in. No. I said, it would be great, we'd be a great partner for you, and I want to see Intel do well. Intel was a great company, and it can be a great company again. But I said, I think it would be good if we own 10% of your company. He said, I'll make that deal. And it happens to be worth $11 billion. So we made $11 billion for the country, and then I was criticized by some of the fake news media. That's not the American way. Actually, it is the American way. Now, if I can help other countries or do those deals with others, I would do that. I think it's great. It's good. Builds up our balance sheet. Let me tell you, our country is becoming very rich again. You don't see it. When the CBO came out on Friday and said, we just found $4 trillion, and that goes to reduce our deficit, $4 trillion, and it was from the tariffs. Our country is becoming very, very rich again. I hope you get used to it. You know, you're gonna have to get used to it.
In addition to reducing the deficit, any update on your previous talking about potentially giving Americans a tariff rebate check?
Well, we have a lot of money coming in, rebate check for the Americans, and it's coming in at tremendous numbers. Don't forget, I would say, Scott, we probably are talking about right now 50%, maybe even less than that. With all the money you're hearing is coming in, you're talking about, a lot of it hasn't kicked in yet. And when it really kicks in is in 2 years when these plants are built and opened and the money starts pouring in, right? But, there's a concept of making you could call it a dividend, as we would say, making a dividend to the people in this country who have had to suffer through stupid leadership. And they paid a lot of taxes and they got nothing for it, or they got attacked like you were, okay, for it. No, there's a possibility. Primarily, we want to pay down debt, but there's a possibility that we take a piece of it and make a dividend to the people.
Mr.
American
President,
tech
and
companies.
I have a question for Steve Witkoff, if I may.
Yeah.
This past weekend, Sergei Lavrov was saying that Putin will not sign a peace deal with Zelensky because Russia views him as illegitimate. Just wondering if the Russians have been relaying this to your team, if they view Zelensky, as a leader worth signing a peace deal with, if they will.
Doesn't matter what they say. Steve can answer, but I can answer too. Doesn't matter what they say. Everybody's posturing. It's all bullshit, okay? Everybody's posturing. Steve, do you have a different answer?
I agree with you, sir.